Right. Welcome, everyone. I know that you all are joining our meeting, and I am excited to have you all here. We will get started, and I want you to do three things for me. Okay, I'm going to put you to work right at the very beginning. So, the first thing I want you to do is, and I don't want you to do it yet, I'm going to give you the signal of when I want you to complete this task. I want you to put your name in the chat. Not yet, though. And let me know where you're joining from. And I want you to answer this question for me. Okay. The question is, what is one item in your house that will be difficult for you to let go of? One item in your house that would be difficult for you to let go of. All right. So again, there are three things: your name, where you're joining from, and you're going to answer the question, what is one item in your house that will be difficult for you to let go of and part ways with? And then we will get started. So think for a moment, give yourself a chance to think. I already have my item in mind. The name, where you're joining from, and that one item that you would say, "Ooh, Maisha, I don't think I can get rid of this item." And while you all are thinking, welcome again. I am Maisha Wilder, and I will be your facilitator today. I'm very, very excited to close out the matrix for you all. I understand from a few of you that this is your fourth time being here. You have attended the other three sessions, and I'm so glad that you are joining us today. All right. So again, name, where you're joining from, and that one item that would be difficult for you to get rid of. I see Stetraquan has shared his. Thank you so much, Stacy. Orangeburg, South Carolina, home of the Bulldogs and Claflin University. I went to South Carolina State for graduate school, and welcome from South Carolina.
Oh, were you a loyal daughter?
Yeah. And I went to graduate school. My sister went to school at South Carolina State. My other sister went to Claflin. So long history with Orangeburg. I
Well,
will
it's very nice to meet you. My daughter went to Claflin, and I work here at South Carolina State. So I always honor the loyal sons and daughters when I meet them.
yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. All right, it looks like Steph Jaquan said his man cave. Stacy said her piano. I know that's right. Um, we have Allison that is in Charleston. Or went to Charleston rather. Yes, Johnson and Wales. I went to undergraduate in Charleston, South Carolina at Charleston Southern University. Jewelry boxes, your grandmother's cabinet. Yes, you all listen. My item that I would have to say that would be difficult for me to let go of, um, even though it's not really a part of my house, it's just whenever I'm here, this item is here, and that is my cell phone, y'all. Ooh, my cell phone. If I lose my cell phone, it's a bad day, you know. So I am really, really careful about making sure I have it close to me. So today's conversation is going to be about servant leadership. And I like to start our conversation on us understanding that being a servant means that we have to let go of things. We have to let go of the things that we want and put whatever is in front of us first. We may have to prioritize something else, but that may mean letting go of something else. So while we are going through today's session on servant leadership and really closing out the matrix, I want us to have in the back of our minds things that are difficult for us to let go of is rooted in our sense of having control. We want to be in control. If we let go of something that we really hold near and dear to our heart or something that we use on a regular basis, we probably are saying to ourselves, the sense of control tied to that will make us feel uncomfortable, or we will feel like if I get, Stacy may be saying, if I get rid of my piano, who's going to take care of it like I did, and what would they do with it if I gave it away? So I want us to have in the
If I
back of
make it
our
a little
minds
loud.
today, when it comes to servanthood and servant leadership, first letting ourselves know that not being in control is the entry point into servant leadership. Okay, all right. And so our organization was founded by our amazing CEO, Kristen Webb, in 2019. And she has founded this organization, the Greater You Leadership Series, on the principle and the idea that her primary goal in trainings that she facilitates and service delivery on which her team facilitates is that our goal is to build leaders from the inside out. And I know that sometimes society paints a picture that leaders have suits and ties on and they have a desk with a fancy label on it or a door with some fancy identifying factor that identifies them as a leader. But today and throughout the series, we want to show you the importance of being a leader and that it starts from within and it pours out into those that we serve. So you can see on the screen the persons and the organizations we have supported and we commit our service to. And you will have an opportunity at the end of this series and presentation to partner with us if you desire to continue our services and host other trainings similar to this. So I look forward to showing you all that opportunity so that we can continue our relationship with you. Of course, you're wondering, who is this young lady presenting to us today? Now, I am Maisha. I am, as you will see, most of the things that I have done in my career center around human connections. If you were to look up in a dictionary the word extrovert, that picture will probably be somewhere near it because I am a textbook extrovert person. I love being around people, thrive off of the presence of others. So making human connections is a part of who I am. And I've done that in several different capacities as a K through 12 school counselor, as a college professor, as a leadership development trainer. And I am the youngest of four children. So if you are the youngest in your family, put a heart in the chat because most of the times they stereotype us young folks and the youngest of the family. And they say, I know my siblings do, they say, Maisha, you're so loud. You're always entertaining everybody. And I take that as a compliment. So I would be considered the love of the party. And I hope that today's session is going to give you that experience so that you can feel connected to not just me, but to those that are in the session as well. So let's take a look at the chat really quickly. And again, thank you to those that are joining it. Allison, Mary Beth, being the youngest again, it comes with benefits, right? So today, again, we are very excited to have you all here. And before we move forward, I'm going to be a Zoom flight attendant for just a few moments and let you know what features are in Zoom that you can utilize so that our session today is dialogue and that it is effective. So the first feature I want to share with you is the feature, the mute and unmute button. It's going to say audio on your screen. So if you would like to share, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that. I'm going to do what's called passing the virtual microphone. So if I pass it to you, feel free to unmute your microphone and share your thoughts. Also, the video option is there for you as well. I would love to see your amazing faces. If not, it's totally fine. But you have that opportunity in the video feature there. And another feature that I really want to emphasize is more so an accommodation. For those of you that need to see the words in print, there is, if you were to tap the word more in the dots, you will see, at least on my end, it will have an option for you to um, have the captions on the screen. So if you want to see the words as we are talking, you will have to manually enable that feature by clicking the captions. Okay, all right. I want to be sure that we are ready to go. And again, I thank you so much for joining today. Wherever you're joining from, thank you so, so much. And we start each session with a quote by our CEO, Kristen Webb, who said this. She said, "You cannot stumble upon greatness. You walk up to it and introduce yourself." I want to say that quote one more time so that when I say it again, you can really hear it and kind of see what that quote looks like in action. You cannot stumble upon greatness. You walk up to it and introduce yourself. Now, as I've already shared the quote twice, I had the privilege of speaking with one of the attendees, Stetra Kwam, and he was here early in the session, and we had a great conversation about this quote. And so I'm going to pass the virtual microphone to him and have him share his um, thoughts on this quote. And then, Stetchaquan, this is what I want you to do next. After you share your thoughts, I want you to pass the virtual microphone to someone that you see on the screen. Okay? All right. So, Stetchaquan, here is the virtual microphone, and we would love to know your thoughts on this quote.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stetcher Quorum Calvin here at Memphis, Sheriff County Health Department in Memphis, Tennessee. My thoughts on this quote is, I mean, you have, you can't just like you say, can't stumble up on. You have to walk up and introduce yourself. Well, mine is you have to knock on the door or ring the doorbell before and once you do that, then you because the door is not going to just automatically open itself. So I feel like it's saying to knock on the door to present yourself. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so, so much. Stetchaquam, if you don't mind, find someone on the screen if you have your video in gallery mode,
Hmm.
or you can pass the virtual microphone to me and I will be glad to pass it to someone else.
Okay.
It's up to you.
I'll pass it to you and let you pass it to someone else.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to pass the microphone to Sophia. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If not, feel free to correct me when you unmute your microphone or turn your camera on. Sophia, instead of sharing your thoughts on this quote, I want you to share what group of people do you believe need to hear this quote the most?
Hi, yeah, you did say my name correctly.
Thank you.
You
Awesome.
cannot stumble upon greatness. You walk up to it and introduce yourself. To what
Yeah.
group of people I would
Yes.
say
Mhm.
this to?
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't want to like narrow it down to any particular group. Like we're talking
Okay.
about leadership, so
Yes.
um, no, I don't
No,
want to
I don't
just
want to just.
say it to the leaders, but every individual,
Yes.
so they can be the leader themselves so we can all um come up to a greater outcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, I love it. You do not have to make that face. That was great feedback. You are absolutely right. I believe that this quote is, again, like you mentioned, not just to leaders. Everybody needs to understand that walking up to greatness is what we should be doing. We walk up to it, we introduce ourselves. And if we're to be really, really honest, sometimes it's hard to do that. It's hard to face the reality of what comes with greatness. Because sometimes we assume that greatness means it's more work or I have to change who I am. But walking up to it and owning it and introducing ourselves, and just like you and Seth Jaquam said, to really individualize the statement because it's very, very important. So thank you both so much for your thoughts and sharing that. So we are approaching, we're at the end of the Greater You Leadership Matrix in this series. And you have had the opportunity, for some of you, for those that have attended the other 3 sessions, you've learned 3 great pillars in laying a solid foundation for leadership and leadership development. Whether you are been leading for years or whether you are an aspiring leader, each of these pillars can be applied to you as an individual so that you can continue to grow throughout your leadership journey. So self-awareness presented by Stacy, and the importance of really understanding ourselves and how that should be the first thing we understand and really go back to as we matriculate through the series. And of course, after self-awareness, being able to hold ourselves accountable and others, and effective communication, which was led by Keenan. Shout out to Julian for leading accountability. And I'm very excited about closing us out on putting this all together on servant leadership. And I want us to really focus on the word servant as we go through this series, because serving, again, is going to give us an opportunity to lay ourselves aside and put ourselves in a position where we're not the focus. And I'm glad that Kristen decided to put servant leadership at the very end, because that's the whole notion behind serving, is making sure that we aren't the first ones you see. We aren't, it's not about us. All right. So embodying servant leadership. So today you're going to learn strategies and how to embody what it means to be a servant leader, and taking the aura and the presence of a servant leadership into your various workplaces and even in your home and in society. You know what? As a leader, I don't turn on my leadership skills when I don't turn it off rather when I come home or if I'm with my family. Being a leader and embodying leadership goes with us wherever we go. And so if I were to serve you a menu for today's workshop and webinar, this would be on the menu. And these are the items I would love for us to dive into. And that is, first, to understand the principles of servant leadership. You're going to develop empathy and active listening skills and learn strategies to empower and support others and foster a culture of collaboration and trust. And most importantly, walk away with an application process and how to apply what we've learned in our daily leadership practices. So my style of presenting is a dialogue. And we know that servant leadership and being a leader in general means that we cannot lead without those that are following us. So my style of facilitation means that I'm able to facilitate effectively when we do it together. All right. So I'm excited about today's conversation. And before we move forward, I want to share another quote with you by Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, who says that service is the rent we pay for the privilege to live on this earth. This quote is very important to all of us. And as we think about this particular quote before we move forward into the curriculum for today, we really must first understand that what we do on this earth is a privilege. It is an honor to serve. And whatever capacity that is, we must understand that we are doing this uh, as a human to advance the community, advance and perpetuate service for those that will come after us. And I love the word rent in this particular quote because for those of you that have rented before, rented anything, whether it be a home or car, it doesn't belong to us. And so our time here on earth does not belong to us, and we don't know how long we get to keep it. So it's important that we steward the time that we have here through our service to one another. And right before we go to the next slide, I'm going to pass the virtual microphone to Allison. And Allison, just take a few seconds to think about the quote first, and feel free to share what word stands out to you in this quote before we dive into today's session, Allison.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so service is the rent that we pay for the privilege to live here. So I feel like I'm looking, it is a privilege to be here. And a lot of us are in public service roles because we have a calling to do something good that means something to help others. And that's why a lot of us are here, is so that we could do
Mhm.
something meaningful, and that's our way of paying paying it back in some kind of way and doing something meaningful or good. So
Mhm.
um, I don't like the idea of renting so much because
Right, right.
because I want equity, but
Yes,
but I get it, Yeah, it's not really ours.
yeah, it's true.
It's an honor to get to be here, and so we have to
Absolutely.
take good care of it and each other while we're here.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Allison. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Mhm.
So, why servant leadership? Servant leadership is, of course, very, very important when it comes to not just leading in our various roles, but just as a person, just as Allison has mentioned and others of you. And before we move forward in answering this question, I want to know from you in the chat. I want you to put in the chat who you serve. So in your role, whether it be if you are in a leadership role or just an employee, who do you serve in your particular organizations and places of work? I want to put that in the chat so I know who's represented and what careers are represented today. So feel free to put in the chat who you serve. Right. Awesome. Thank you. All right. We have folks that are representing the public, residents in their region, serve students. Yes. I know in my role, I'm a part-time professor and I serve students and faculty. Um, and we're going to talk about what that looks like when it comes to serving those in our areas of business and where we work, and how it's important that we understand and answer the question, are we really serving them? Thank you so much for sharing. So when I see the word servant, guess what, guys? I'm a foodie. I love to eat and I love going to restaurants. And so if anybody out there are visiting Orlando, for vacation or something like that, please reach out to me because I have a laundry list of restaurants that you should try because I go to them frequently. And the reason I love restaurants is because restaurants do a great job at putting the customer first when it comes to food. You know, when it comes to us serving in different capacities, how we treat those we are serving will determine if they will come back. And so loyalty is a huge part of serving well. So let's start with this statement. Servant leadership is a leadership philosophy where the leader's main goal is to serve. So you shared in the chat who you serve. And now we will look at what serving those people and your teams or the public, some of you put you serve the public, what that looks like in action. So servant leaders build trust. So when I visit your team or when I visit a place of employment, and your ability to build trust with me is present, then I will probably have a strong working relationship with you because I have the opportunity to build trust with you as the leader or with you as a person who plays a significant role in that organization. Now also servant leaders boost team morale. And I would have to go back to the restaurant analogy or story. And that is, I usually revisit restaurants or stores or organizations where I feel that when I walk into that place, everybody spoke to me. Everybody is greeting me with a smile. The sense of culture is positive. And so that's a question that we can ask ourselves if we want to be and develop the servant leadership skills that we are here to learn about. Are we boosting team morale? Are we assessing how the team functions as a group? And also, we're fostering positive organizational culture. And it goes back to how does your team feel when they come to work? How can we contribute to ensuring that when they come to where we are in our various workplaces, that it's positive? All right. Now, also, we know that for every positive, there's a negative. So, as servant leaders, we do not want to focus on personal power nor control. So if I were to show you a picture of a crown and an apron, what would you say about the crown when it comes to leadership? So I'm going to pass the virtual microphone to Derek. Hopefully, again, Derek, if I'm mispronouncing your name, feel free to correct me, but I hope I'm saying it correctly. Derek, a crown. If you were to see a person wearing a crown, what would you say about their leadership style?
Oh man, that's a tricky one.
Okay,
It's a tricky one. If I saw a crown,
crown.
because
Or someone in position of royalty. What would
okay,
you?
that's what I think of when I think of that crown. You're correct. But see,
Okay.
and just okay, not I stated it like this.
Uh-huh.
Being in leadership previously before I came to the public sector, not
Okay.
everybody who wears a crown is actually presents himself as royalty.
Absolutely. Yes.
So,
Such a great point.
so not to take it away from those that do,
Hmm.
but some people have, and I'll tie it back, is have titles, not saying they didn't earn it, but don't lead as if they should have that crown.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Very, very important point that you bring up. And it goes to what we define as servant leadership. And also, and feel free for those of you that want to add to what Derek has mentioned so well, is that servant leadership is not a position, it's not a job title, because just as he said, you can be the CEO or you can be a regular lay member and possess servant leadership qualities. And so it's important for us to, whether we are in the highest position in an organization or at an entry level position, being able to serve others is important across the board. So there isn't a spectrum of service. There is a spectrum for if we are serving effectively. So again, thank you, Derek, for mentioning that. You made a very, very, very good point. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yes. And here are a few people that you all may recognize that embody servant leadership and possess servant leadership styles. Mahatma Gandhi, we have Herb Keller, who is the co-founder of Southwest Airlines. We have Nelson Mandela, who we know embodies humility and inclusivity. We have Mary Barra, who is the CEO of General Motors. And of course, we can't talk about servant leadership without mentioning Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who embodies all of these individuals embody servant leadership. And if I would like to pose this to those of you in the chat, share one word that describes either all of the leaders that you see or one of them. One word that describes them when it comes to their leadership style as it pertains to servant leadership. Yes, selfless. Absolutely. I would say putting others first. I know that's not one word, so I would say selfless again, such as Mary has mentioned, uplifting, yes. Legacy is another word. Sacrificial, absolutely, absolutely. Empowering, yes. These words that you all have mentioned are what we want to possess and we want others to say about us when we aren't around. So many of these persons on the screen have passed away, but we are still feeling the effects of their leadership style, and they're not even present anymore. So it's important for us to have the same mindset and approach as leaders in our various workplaces. If I wasn't at work today, would my team members share the same statements and words about my leadership style when it comes to serving them as their leader in their roles? So thank you so much. Those are phenomenal words and a great way to sum up their leadership styles. So I'm going to give you all an opportunity to reflect on a question or a statement rather, and you will have a chance again to unmute yourself and share your thoughts on it. And that statement is, I want you to really think about your leadership approach and how you currently serve your team. So we've talked about and shown you others that serve their team and given a definition of servant leadership. Now we're going to bring it home and see and think about what we're doing currently. And I want you to consider areas where you could better embody the principles of servant leadership. So think about the words you just mentioned that you associated with those individuals that have phenomenal leadership styles. And I want you to think about what areas are need more attention when it comes to embodying servant leadership and the principles of servant leadership. So I give you all about 5 seconds to think about your response, and then I'm going to choose someone to share their thoughts. Looks like I've heard from all of you all, with the exception of Stacy. So Stacy, if you don't mind, unmute your microphone and or your video, but your microphone for sure, and share with us what area do you think you could better embody the principles of servant leadership in your role?
In my role, I
Mhm.
feel like I could do better. Um, this is gonna sound crazy.
No.
I could do better with teaching or passing on skill sets to my team, only because I get so focused on getting work done that where's the time to actually teach other people how to do it?
Ah, okay. All right. So in the chat, if Stacy's statement resonates with you, give her the high five, heart her statement, throw up some hearts or high fives if you agree with what she's saying, or if that's a struggle for you as well, something that you're working on as well. I know it definitely resonates with me, Stacy. Delegating is hard, and teaching someone else how to do something is even harder because you're like, oh, they're doing it wrong, or you have to be patient with that person. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that, because being able to serve others is again putting them first. And for many of us, we've been doing things for a long time. We would consider ourselves advanced in a role, or experts in a field. So teaching someone who is starting the process really involves being patient and being humble and using empathy and reminding yourself, you know what? Remember how I felt when I learned how to tie my shoes. I was frustrated. It took me a while. And so leading others does cause us to feel like we need to change our strategy and our style and really leading well. Stacey, I see that you unmuted. What other comments do you want to
Well,
add?
so the big picture is it's not even about the people that I work with, but it's about the campus as a whole, because one day I have to leave, and these same people have to serve the campus in my absence, right? So
Yeah.
that's the big concern for me. Am I preparing them for my departure?
Ah, yes, that's definitely a different approach to that statement. So yes, and that is something that we have to think about. We had a conversation in the very beginning about what that looks like when we are not in the position any longer, and if things are going well, if the wheels are continuing to turn, and also understanding that it's really not about us, and to be okay if things change if we aren't there anymore, because they do evolve, they do get better in our absence. So thank you so much, Stacey, for sharing your thoughts on that. And now you will have an opportunity to connect with those you are with today. And so you're going to go in the breakout room and share your reflections on the strategies to better serve your team and stakeholders. What are some strategies that you can use to better serve your team? So I want you to think about service and being sure we put in the forefront those we serve. So how can you better serve your team? So you will have a few moments, 10 minutes or so, to collaborate with your team. And then we're going to come back and I'll hear from two people. And then we're going to move our way towards the end of our webinar today. So you prepare to go to your breakout room. The conversation was great. Rachel, we have Stacy back. We have, looks like everyone is joining us back. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. It looks like the conversations were very, very great, and you all learned a lot from each other. And so now I'm going to give you all an opportunity, one of you to, one from each breakout room to share what was shared in your breakout rooms about ways to better serve your teams and stakeholders. So feel free to unmute yourself. Breakout room one, if you remember what breakout room you was in, feel free to unmute your microphone and share with us. Looks like Jewel has her microphone unmuted already.
My apologies. I didn't see it was
That's okay.
unmuted. I did just make a comment. I was talking with Sophia over here, and something that I just actually put in the chat is a big thing for me is being prompt. I'm very ADHD, so like I try to be on top of it, and sometimes it is like communicating with other builders and people that we have partnerships with, and so you know, listening to understand and having that effective communication, I feel like is a huge, lack of better words, a leg to the stool here, and
Yes.
having a good relationship.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That is great. That's very practical strategy. And thank you so much for sharing. Uh, so breakout room two, feel free to share your thoughts on, yes, I love the analogy that it's a leg to the stool rather. Um, definitely have to
Yeah, I heard that
write
one
that
time,
down,
the
Jewel.
three-legged stool. For actually, I learned that through a program, and there's
Mhm.
always a minimum of three important pillars needed for a
Yes.
solid foundation, and that can look different according to each situation. So, like with I work in pest control,
Okay.
with Art Pest Control, and Jill Raymond's my boss. I refer to her as Superwoman. I don't know how she gets done what she does, but
Mhm.
something I realized working with her is she has such good communication. She's
Mhm.
very empathetic, but there's promptness. If she
Yes.
asks me to do something, it gets done. If I ask her something, she gets it done. And so,
Mhm.
that's why I said communication, I would say, is a huge leg to that stool.
Yes. Again, thank you so much. And shout out to your supervisor, Superwoman, who is certainly making an impact on you and the other members of the team. And thank you so much again for sharing your amazing feedback that we all can apply to ourselves and our teams as well back at our workplaces. So breakout room two, feel free, someone in that group, to unmute yourself and share uh, a sentence or two about what you gathered from the discussion. And if not, we can move right along.
I think that was our group, and
Okay,
Allison
okay,
shared with us an issue or a challenge, we're not gonna call it an issue, that she had
okay.
with a project that did not have the outcomes that she expected. And we talked about how do we fix what's how do we make it right, or how do we fix it, but we weren't able to come up with a solution in the time that we had though. So but we
Ah,
did decide that just collaboration and communication outside may be helpful.
yes, yes. Thank you so, so much. I know getting in the chat, it's like, it's so much I want to share, but thank you so much for sharing what you did mention. And Derek mentioned in the chat that he feels as if servant leaders should always consider the input of others um, who are actually specialized and or directly involved in what is being completed. Leaving the input of those who are on the ground daily doesn't create a good morale within your team or department. Absolutely. Thank you again for those of you that shared your thoughts. It's very, very, very practical. And we all have areas that we need to sharpen. So thank you so much. I will say that Jewel mentioned the word empathy. So, practically speaking, embodying servant leadership is using empathy. and being empathetic of those we are serving. And so these are ways to showcase that you are empathetic towards others, active listening, and the list goes on and on and on. So it's very important that we ask ourselves after this webinar, how are we really embodying empathy? So feel free to snap a picture of these bullets and these statements to really go back and ask yourselves, I need to apply these in practice when I go back to work. Active listening again. Active listening, Keenan did a phenomenal job in sharing communication and how it's important for us to be active listeners and to eliminate distractions and to avoid interrupting, being able to acknowledge emotions. Active listening is not just eye contact, just looking at a person, because I've been in conversations where I'm looking at the person at the same time I'm planning what I'm going to cook for dinner, grocery lists, and all of that, or something's happening in the background. So it's important that we really pay attention and be present with those that we are working with while they are talking with us. And empowerment. How are we empowering those we are serving? Are we giving them a chance to be autonomous in their roles? Derek mentioned that in his comment in the chat, being able to delegate responsibilities, setting clear goals. These principles will definitely be the practical ones we can apply in our daily practices as leaders. And humility. We can't go without emphasizing humility and being humble, and how that is the secret sauce to really putting this all together. That it's important for us to walk into a room and know that people see us as humble and not someone that is a person to cringe at. Or, we know many leaders, we probably had some, unfortunately, where they come into a room or they come to our workplaces and we cringe and we tighten up. But we want to be the complete opposite. We want to give others a chance to feel trustworthy with us and how we lead. All right. Well, we've made it to where we will recap again. Please pardon me for that technological matter on my end. It was showing something much different. So again, my apologies for that. Thank you so very much for those of you that have attended. If you've attended all of the workshops and webinars this week and last week, thank you so much. And we want to be sure that you fully understand and are able to walk away from the series with principles and practices to apply to your leadership styles, and most importantly, impact those you are working with. So again, these are the areas we've discussed on today. And again, I hope they are going to give you an opportunity to apply what you've learned in your day-to-day practices. And of course, we have wrapped up the Greater You Leadership Series, and I want to give you an opportunity to partner with us. And if there's an opportunity or a training or any of the topics we've discussed so far that you want more information on, please, 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 we are more than welcome and willing to support you and your team, and so that we can see impact and help you to lead with purpose. So scan this QR code and help us to grow. We know that as leaders, we grow all the time. We are not at the finish line when it comes to leading, and we need to lead to the point where we are continuing to learn as we lead. So leading is learning. So feel free to scan the QR code and provide some feedback to us. And there is the link as well provided in the chat if you are unable to scan the QR code with your device. Allison, thank you so much. For those of you that have to step away, thank you. And again, my apologies for the video not working. We will hopefully in the feedback you can provide with us what went well, what was helpful, but most importantly, give you an opportunity to partner with us. And here is your opportunity to do that. And we have created a code for you to use that is good through November 30th, 20% off before the 30th, of course. If you would like to book a training, facilitation, or coaching service with us, again, we are more than happy and willing to support you in leadership development. And as always, we start our sessions with this quote by Kristen Webb, our CEO, and we will end our sessions with the quote as well. You cannot stumble upon greatness. You walk up to it and introduce yourself. And again, thank you so very much to each of you that have attended. It's a pleasure meeting you all, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you so much. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, everyone. I don't want to call names. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Mr. Calvin. Pleasure meeting everyone.